remind you that the chamber has authorized video recordings and the taking of photographs. Please go ahead.
Je vous remercie. Vous avez une...
Thank you. You have 1 minute to take photographs and record videos.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Court officer, please, could you please call the case? Thank you, Madam President. Your Honours. The situation in the Republic of the Philippines case, the prosecutor versus Mr. Rodrigo Roa Duterte, case number ICC 0121 0125. And we are in open session.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I will now ask the parties to introduce themselves, starting with the Office of the Prosecutor. Please pause before speaking and speak slowly to allow the interpreters to interpret appropriately. May I ask you to introduce yourself and to confirm whether the list of your staff that I received prior to the hearing is correct, Mr. Prosecutor?
Your Honours, good morning. The list is correct. Once again, Deputy Prosecutor Manjay Niang to my left, trial lawyer Edward Jeremy behind us, trial lawyer Robin Croft, International Cooperation Advisor Chantel Daniels, and our very able case manager Grace Go. I'm Karim Khan, the prosecutor.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I now turn to the counsel for the defense of Mr. Duterte. As everyone can see, Mr. Duterte is present and is attending the hearing via video link. As Mr. Duterte made a long journey involving a considerable time difference, the chamber authorized Mr. Duterte to follow the hearing at a distance. His counsel, however, is present with us in the courtroom. Thank you, counsel. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. I am Salvador C. Medjaldea, counsel for Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, counsel. I will now introduce the chamber. By my side, we have the Judge Reine Adelaide Sophie Alapini Gansu, the Vice President of the Court, and Judge Maria del Socorres Flores Liera. I am the presiding judge of the pretrial chamber 1 of the court, and my name is Julia Antonella Motok. Now, I would like to speak to you, Mr. Duterte. I'm speaking French, but you are receiving interpretation of what I'm saying in English. I understand that you are at ease in the English language and that the interview yesterday at the detention center was conducted in English and that you did not deem it necessary to request interpretation into any other language during this interview. This said, I would like firstly to confirm your identity. Could you provide us with your full names, please?
I'm Rodrigo Roa Duterte. That's my first middle name is Roa. The surname is Duterte.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. What is your date of birth?
Again, ma'am.
Can we request that the question be repeated? I don't think he heard it. Thank you.
Repetition from the English booth. What is your date of birth? Yes, thank you very much, Council. I was asking quite simply of Mr. Duterte what his full names were, and then I subsequently asked him what his date of birth was and what his place of birth is. Is that all right, Council?
Yep. Of course, I did. My birth month and year day is March 28, 1945. I was born in the province of Leyte in the Philippines.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. As a preliminary point, very well, thank you, Mr. Duterte. As a preliminary point, it is useful to clarify the nature and limited scope of this first appearance hearing. Today's hearing is neither the start of the trial, nor is it a confirmation of charges hearing. During today's hearing, no evidence will be collected or presented, and the issues of Mr. Duterte's guilt or innocence will therefore not be addressed. In accordance with Article 61 of the Rome Statute, the Court's founding treaty, and Rule 1211 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, the main purpose of this initial appearance is to answer 3 questions. Firstly, the Chamber must ensure that the person who was the subject of the arrest warrant has been informed of the crimes of which he is accused. Second, the Chamber must ensure that this person has been informed of his rights as recognized by the Rome Statute. Third, the Chamber must set a date on which it intends to hold a confirmation of charges hearing. The Chamber notes that your counsel, Mr. Duterte, filed 2 motions, one in relation with today's hearing, and you may be aware that these 2 motions have not been accepted by the Chamber because of the nature of today's hearing. No further discussion on the matter is necessary during this hearing because, as I said at an earlier stage, the aim of this hearing today is to introduce the parties and to ascertain the charges and to set a date for the confirmation of charges hearing at a later stage. With regard to the first point, I recall that Mr. Duterte has received a copy of the warrant for his arrest and that a redacted version of the prosecutor's application for the issuance of the warrant of arrest is public. I will now ask the court officer to read the charges against him. The charges will be read in English. Please, over to you, Madam Courtroom Officer. Thank you, Madam President, Your Honours.
On 7 March 2025, Pre-Trial Chamber 1 concluded that there were reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Duterte is criminally responsible pursuant to Article 25(3)(a) of the Rome Statute as an alleged indirect co-perpetrator for the crime against humanity of murder pursuant to Article 7(1)(a) of the statute as follows. A. Murder of at least 19 persons, allegedly drug pushers or thieves, killed by members of the Davao Death Squad in various locations in or around Davao City, Philippines between 2011 and 2016. B. Murder of at least 24 persons, allegedly criminals, such as drug pushers or thieves or drug users, killed by or under the supervision of members of the Philippines law enforcement, sometimes with the assistance of persons who were not part of the police, at various locations in the Philippines between 2016 and 2019.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la.
Thank you, Madam Courtroom Officer. Mr. Duterte, I'm not going to ask you to stand up because I know your condition, so I'm going to allow you to remain seated. You have just heard the reading of the charges, which are in accordance with the content of the arrest warrant you received. This means that you have been informed of the crimes of which you are accused. And this concludes the examination of the first point mentioned above. I will now turn to the second point, which concerns your rights as a suspect before this court. I will summarize some of these rights, which are of particular importance at this stage of the proceedings. Those rights are as follows. You can benefit from the assistance free of charge of a competent interpreter and benefit from the necessary translations to meet the requirements of fairness. You have the right to have the time and facilities necessary to prepare your defense and to communicate freely and confidentially with the counsel of your choice. You have the right to remain silent, and you cannot be forced to testify against yourself or to confess guilt. You can also make statements in your defense without taking an oath. In addition to any other disclosure provided for in the statute, the prosecutor must disclose to you as soon as practicable evidence in his possession or at his disposal that shows or tends to show your innocence or to mitigate your guilt, or that could undermine the credibility of the evidence against you. At the confirmation of charges hearing, you can contest the charges, challenge the evidence presented by the prosecutor, and present evidence. There will be no trial if the charges are not confirmed or if the proceedings against you are completed. You have the possibility to make an application for interim release pending trial. And finally, Mr. Duterte, you have the right to be informed as soon as possible and in detail of the nature, cause, and content of the charges in the language that you fully understand and speak. Counsel, have you understood?
Yes, we're listening, ma'am. We're listening. And before it ends, may we be allowed to present the manifestation on the circumstances behind the delivery of Mr. Duterte in this chamber.
Oui, maître, je dois d'abord demander.
Yes, counsel. This is as part of the procedure. And as we've said since the very outset, I need to ask Mr. Duterte himself to make observations as to the condition of his surrender to the court and the conditions of his detention at the detention facility of the court since his arrival. If he can please tell us these details.
Thank you. Can I?
Oui, maître. Oui.
The presiding judge. Yes, counsel.
Please. 2 days ago, the whole world has witnessed the degrading fashion in which a former president of a sovereign country was bundled into a private aircraft and summarily transported to The Hague. To us lawyers, this would be called called an extrajudicial rendition. To the less legally inclined, it was a pure and simple kidnapping. My client was denied all access to the legal recourse in the country of his citizenship, and this all in the nature of political score settling. Two troubled entities struck an unlikely alliance, an incumbent president who wished to neutralize and choke the legacy of my client and his daughter on the other hand, and a troubled legal institution subject to delegitimization and desperate for a price cuts and a legal show today on the other hand. With this in mind, it is not surprising that my client was abducted from his country. ICC private jets do not drop out of the thin air. That jet which received my client was coordinated in advance. The UAE is not a state party to the ICC and has no obligation to cooperate with the court. Yet my client sat in transit in that country for more than 5 hours. I invite the registry's representative to present today in court to explain to the judges exactly how they believe this transfer was anything other than a gross abuse of process. Given the precipitous arrival of my client, an elderly man with debilitating medical issues, hard of hearing and poor of sight, he was taken to a hospital for observation. Only this morning have I met him for the first time with less than an hour to discuss legal issues. I have not been able to present him with a hard copy of the arrest warrant because we were not supplied with such. I have not even been able to explain to him what the prosecution requested when seeking the issuance of the arrest warrant. This is because the chamber only established a redacted version of the prosecution request last night. Other than to identify himself, my client is not able to contribute anything to this hearing. Most importantly, he is not able even to tell you that he has been informed of the charges as contained in the arrest warrant for a reason more pertinent to which I alluded in my written request to this honorable pretrial chamber this morning, and which is confidential in nature. Accordingly, I repeat my respectful request, which was rejected this morning, to postpone the substantive aspect of this hearing to the next week, when I will have the opportunity to sit with my client and to explain to him what a confirmation hearing is and what the disclosure is, and how the prosecution alleges that he committed crimes. I thank the court for its attention and regret to say that I do not have instructions to continue my submission any further today. Thank you.
D'abord, concernant
Thank you, Counsel. Now, with regard to the health issues of Mr. Duterte, I believe that the court has taken specific measures with regard to his health situation, and I note that subsequent to his arrest and when he arrived at the detention center, the court's doctor was of the opinion that you were fully mentally aware and fit, and that you have undergone further checks and tests at the detention facility. And when you broached health matters, that's saying that you were not able to come to the hearing, the doctors who consulted with you were of the opinion that Mr. Duterte was not in a position to come to the hearing physically, but that if he gave a written permission, he would be able to take part via video link. Now, that is with regard to the health matters that you just mentioned. They are very important, especially concerning the matter of age. Now, with regard to the rights of Mr. Duterte, we have before us the registrar's or the registry's report that says that Mr. Duterte has been informed of his rights, including Articles 66 and 67 of the Rome Statute, and that that he is aware of his rights and that he is also aware of the charges against him. We have before us the report of the registry saying that he was also aware of the warrant of arrest in the English language and that he is very well versed in the English language. Once again, you have the possibility of these charges being read in English, which was the case today. I have read to you in the French language the rights that he has, Mr. Duterte, before this court, and I'd like to specify once again that this is an initial hearing in order for Mr. Duterte to be aware of his rights and the charges against him. And then there will be a full procedure that will unfurl leading up to the confirmation of charges that will enable Mr. Duterte to raise all the matters that you have just raised with regard to the warrant of arrest, with regard to the crimes committed, with regards to the charges and any other matters associated with his arrest and the matters of jurisdiction of the court. You have the opportunity to do this throughout these proceedings leading up to the actual confirmation of charges hearing. Now, counsel, with regard to your request for another hearing to be held next week, well, your initial request, that was, this was not accepted by the court. Now, you have seen the two decisions of the court that have been disclosed to you, and you are aware of the fact that these two decisions were refused. And this is by dint of the fact that this first initial appearance hearing does not need much preparation, as I have said to you on a number of occasions. I am now going to move on to the third stage, which is to set the date for the confirmation of charges hearing. After assessing all factors, including the need for the parties and participants to adequately prepare, as well as Mr. Duterte's rights, including his right to be tried within a reasonable time, the date for the commencement of the confirmation of charges hearing is September the 23rd, 2025. I would add that in accordance with Rule 1217 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, this date may be postponed by the Chamber depending on the progress of the proceedings, either on its own motion or at the request of the prosecutor or the defence. Before concluding this hearing, I would like to inform the parties of the next procedural steps. First, I would like to recall that in accordance with Rule 1212B of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, the Chamber holds status conferences to ensure a small exchange of information under satisfactory conditions. These conferences are organized either ex officio or at the request of the prosecutor or the defense. Secondly, a set of decisions will be taken in a timely manner to ensure that the proceedings progress smoothly and expeditiously. More specifically, I am referring in particular to a decision on the arrangements and procedure for the disclosure of evidence, and a decision setting a timetable for the disclosure of evidence in such a way as to ensure orderly and efficient disclosure between the parties. In this regard, the Chamber orders the prosecutor to begin disclosing today the information on the basis of which the warrant of arrest was issued, and to complete this disclosure no later than within the next 7 days. The Chamber will also issue a decision on the participation of the victims who, according to the statute of the court and to the extent permitted by the Chamber, are authorized to present their views and concerns at this stage of the proceedings. We have come to the end of Mr. Duterte's first appearance hearing. I would like to thank all the participants in this hearing, the interpreters, and the stenographers. This concludes today's hearing.
It's just A-N-D-R-E-S. Andres. Andres. Yes. And you read it? D. Gilbert Andres. Okay. Yeah, let me just take a picture of that. Thanks. Sounded much more complicated than that way you said, isn't it? Yeah, Gilbert Andres. As in Ursula Andres, would be different. So he's the prosecution lawyer, yeah? So he's represented the victim. So he's prosecution. Well, I don't know. He's the court. If that's the court. That's still in. Yeah, but he's represented the prosecutor. So he is. Okay, she's there. She's there. She's there, guys. Okay. Yeah. Going towards the road.
Damn it.
She's gone the other
Well,
way.
I think our colleagues will fix
bring
her
it.
seat ringer.
Live view on your back, yeah?
A few nuts, a few nuts. Yeah?
Nawala, naputol na yung live, no? Ano lang yun eh, parang tawag ka? preliminary, parang ganun. Ah, bawa naman si Digong. Wala, matandang-matanda na talagang sinalbahe talaga si Presidente Duterte. Kawawa naman. Natutulog na eh. Presidente Duterte, ganun talaga pag matanda, nakakatulog na siya dun sa ano niya eh. Hindi pa uuwi niya ng mga yan eh. Ba't papauwi ng mga yan eh? Kapag kumbaga, alam mo ba, parang kang nagbigay ng karne sa mga hyena, ano? Yung ICC, parang hindi nila basta papauwi niyan. Not unless may magpe-pressure dyan ng mga like America o yung ibang bansa. Hindi nila papauwi niyan regardless kung mayroong illegal na ginawa doon sa paghuli sa kanya. Kailangan nila yan eh para may magpondo sa kanila eh. Sa ICC, ganun yan eh. Kasi yung ICC kasi pinopondohan ng mga bansa yan. Wala namang sariling ano yan eh. Kumukuha lang yan ng pondo doon sa mga miyembrong bansa nila siguro, yung mga ibang ano. Pero sa Amerika, wala na yatang nakukuha yan. Hindi nila pala papabalikin dito si Presidente Duterte kung yung ICC lang mismo ang masusunod. Kasi parang kumbaga sa isang naghahanap ng trabaho, ito yung chance nila para sumikat sila ng todo eh. Itong kay Presidente Duterte parang ano. So, not unless mayroong magpe-pressure dito na isang malakas na pinuno ng bansa like the America or the China, baka sakali. Pero kung sasabihin mo hindi nila papawalan yan si Presidente Duterte. Not unless babawiin ng Pilipinas siguro na pabalikin dito, those two, hindi naman mangyayari yun dahil hindi naman itong mga ICC na ito. Kung titingnan nyo, ang kinakaya-kaya lang ng mga ito, yung mahihirap na bansa, yung mga African country, yung mga Asia, katulad nito ngayon sa Asia. Pero pangkaraniwang nabibiktima nitong ICC nito dyan sa African nation. Yan yung laging paborito nila, yung mga, di ba? Wala naman silang naipakulong ba nila si Putin? Di ba? Third world country lang ang mga kaya nito mga ito kasi lalo na ngayon sa atin sa atin nga sana hindi na kaya lang walang nga yung presidente natin. Wala. Kasi siyempre maniniwala yan doon sa mga dilawan na kung ano man ang pagsumbong kasi kailangan nilang i-hearing yan eh. Kumbaga parang yung driver hindi sila makakakuha ng pasahero pag hindi sila nag-drive. Taxi driver ka, kailangan mong mamasada para merong magbabayad sa'yo. Diba? Alam ka naman tutunga-tunga nga sila doon. Tapos, kaya nga yung mga yan, ang laging kakampi ng mga yan yung mga, alam mo na, mga sinungaling. Kasi kung hindi naman sinungaling yung magsusumbong dyan di ba? Makakaano lang yung bansa natin kung ako, ang tingin ko dito, siguro para mailigtas natin yung bansa natin sa mga ganitong tao, kailangan talagang yung presidente natin ay mag-resign. At palitan na ni Sara Duterte kasi hindi dahil pinakulong kasi kung ganyan ang gagawin itong mga ito, Naknang putya, nagnanakaw na tapos ipakukulong mo pa yung puro magnanakaw yung nandiyan sa administrasyon na yun eh. Di ba? Kung naman sabihin hindi, nakikita naman natin, kung matino ba yung gobyerno na yan, nakita mo naman yung ginawa sa budget, nakita mo yung ginawa sa PhilHealth. Pinaglalaban nitong gobyerno daw, nitong mga dilawan na ito ay hindi karapatan ng mga paano naman yung karapatan nung nung membro ng PhilHealth na right to makakuha ng maayos na unang-una yung PhilHealth na yun, pera naman ng miyembro yun. Di ba? I mean, pagtawanan lang ito tayo ng tinaubos pera kakabigay sa kawawa si Presidente Duterte dito. Kaya lang, sabi nga ni Presidente Duterte, nating tulos na siya. Tanggap na rin niya na matanda na nga naman siya. Ano pa ba naman magpakabayani na siya, di ba? Mamatay ng bayani, parang ganon. Parang mag-aalanino ito si Presidente Duterte. Yun nga lang, in different way. Si Ninoy kasi diretsong binaril sa tarmac. Si Presidente Duterte naman, kinuha sa tarmac at pinalikulit doon sa, di ba? Magkamukha iba lang yung kinasawian, pero si Ninoy diretsong namatay. Kaya nagka-revolusyon. Si Presidente Duterte, sana wag namang madisgrasya dyan sa Belgium. Sapagkat pag yan ay nadisgrasya dyan sa Belgium, kaya nga sabi ko, Tore, kung kaming mga Pilipino ay 3 beses nagdadasal para kay Presidente Duterte na huwag madisgrasya, kung ako sa'yo, oras-oras magdasal ka, 24 oras na huwag madisgrasya si Presidente Duterte. Believe me. Kapag ka na-disgrasya si Presidente Duterte, isa ka sa habulin ng taong bayan. Oo, hindi ka tinatakot ng taong bayan. Yun ang gagawin ng taong bayan. Ikaw yung isa sa habulin ng mga Pilipino pag na-disgrasya si Presidente Duterte sa Belgium. Pinapaalala ko lang. Hindi ka kayang iligtas ng mga pulis mo. Baka nga pati pulis mo, batukan ka Diba? Wala Mahinang-mahina na si Duterte tapos nag-iba pa yung klima. Siyempre, may iba pakiramdam na may iba ang temperatura nun. Tsaka medyo maapektuhan, hihinatsak ng hihina si doon dahil sa ikaw nga alam mo yung mga matatandang ganyan, ang gusto na lang yan parang nasa bukid na yung dudungaw, yung lalakad-lakad. Dalhin mo pa dyan sa saksakan ng lamig na lugar. Tapos nakakumpine ka lang doon. Talagang malaki problema nitong bansang ito. Pagka nagkataon. Diba? Ngayon lang ako nakakita ng presidenteng ganyan si Bongbong. Hindi mo pa itinayo yung sirang pangalan ng ama mo, lalo mo lang sinira. Alam mo, pagbaba mo, Mr. President Bongbong Marcos, yung pamilya mo, maski na sa local politics, mawawala. Tandaan mo yung sinabi ko sa inyong mga loyalista. Maski na dyan sa local politics sa inyo, mawawala yan. Isusuka ka ng mga taga. Diba? Ako, ano ko lang ito, pero itong yung nangyari kay Presidente Duterte, parang gusto na rin ng Diyos para mailigtas yung bansa natin. Alam mo kung bakit? Kasi sabi ko nga, magigising yung mga tao dito sa ginawa nila kay Presidente Duterte. Mali, wrong move ito wrong move. Yung ginawa lalo na yung ginawa ni Torre, nakadagdag pa tapos inilaglag pa nung mga yung si Bongbong Marcos. Sakripisyo na lang to baka ito na lang yung ginawang tulay ng Diyos para tayong mga Pilipino mailigtas dito sa mga demonyong mga ito na hindi na makapagpatuloy sa kanilang binabalak na panunungkulan sa mahabang panahon. Di ba? Matagal-tagal pa yung kuya. Halimbawa, Jilan. Baka nga si Presidente Duterte nandiyan pa sa ICC. Si Bongbong Marcos wala na sa Malacanang. Mangyayari yun. Si Presidente Duterte nandiyan sa ICC, si Bongbong Marcos wala na sa Malacanang. Mangyayari yun. Kasi ang nakikita ng tao yung ginawa ni Bongbong Marcos dyan sa na yan. Tapos, babanatan pa nila si Sara Duterte, si Baste. Atupagin ngayon ng mga yan, yung Davao City. Sapagkat kasama sa deal yan na yung pagiging mayor ng City of Davao ay ibibigay sa mga Nograles. Bibigyan nila sa Nograles yan. Siyempre, para, di ba, kandidato si Presidente Duterte, baka nga i-disqualified nila yan siyempre, Vice Mayor lang ang tinakbo na Kaya nga tuwan-tuwa si Nograles yan di-disqualified nila yan si Duterte. Ewan ko kung pwedeng mag-substitute, no? Di ba? Siguro kung pwede yata mag-substitute pagka na-disqualified o just in case na mayroong death, ewan ko kung disqualified meron. Tuwan-tuwa si Nograles niya. Kasama sa deal nila yan, kaya nga binalatan nila. Kaya lang, ang problema kasi, baka kababanat nyo sa kababanat nyo kay sa mga di daw pwedeng i-DQ. Maganda. Kababanat nyo ng kababanat sa mga Duterte, hindi kayo abutin ng December. Ako pa naman, naginip pa naman ako na ang presidente sa 2025 ay si Sara Duterte. Ako, hindi ko naman tinatrato seryoso yung panaginip ko. Pero parang, kasi nung managinip ako, last year pa sabi ko, paano magiging presidente si Sara Duterte? Kailangan maging presidente si Sara Duterte, magkaroon ng revolusyon. Paano naman magkakarevolusyon? Yun namang ICC, wala namang, kumbaga, walang Kasi ang ko noon, para magkaroon ng revolusyon, hulihin nyo si Duterte. Kaya nga, hulihin nyo na si Duterte, ngayon na. Kasi ang tingin ko, pag hinulan nyo si Duterte ng ICC, nung panahon na yon, mag-aalsa yung tao. Sabi ko, wala naman, di naman hinuhuli. Baka mali yung panaginip ko. Bigla niyong hinuli si Duterte. So, maaaring magkatotoo yung panaginip ko. Kasi meron na ngayong dahilan yung panaginip ko na maging presidente si Sara. Kasi sabi ko nga paulit-ulit ko naman sinasabi sa inyo, hindi magiging presidente si Sara Duterte by means of election. Hindi siya magiging presidente. Pwede lang maging presidente si Sara Duterte kung yung tao mismo ang mag-uupo sa kanya. Ano yun? Yung people's power, yung mga ganon. Ang tanong, may gagawa ba nun? Hindi ko naman sinabing gawin niya, baka mamaya Pero ako, yun ang tingin ko. Kasi bakit? Dadayain lang siya eh. Hindi naman papayag yung mga yan na matalo. Siyempre, pag dinaya mo, sasabihin lang sa inyo, patunayan yung nandaya ako, magprotesta kayo. Tapos na tayo pag gano'n kasi baka tapos na yung termino 10 taon na hindi pa natatapos yung protesta. Hindi katulad nung magpipipol sa power ka, iuupo mo yung taong gusto mo. Iuupo diretso ng tao. Hindi, walang daya doon. Yun lang naman ang paraan para, alam mo, tsaka sabi ko nga, yung bansa natin, pupunta tayo sa kaguluhan. Matagal ko na nga sinasabi sa inyo eh. Tayo ay mapupunta sa kaguluhan. Definitely. Kasi nakikita ko yung ginagawa nung grupo nila Marcos, nila Romualdez. Hindi sila papayag na matalo sila at plus may nagnanakaw pa. Kasi yung ninanakaw nila, yung iba tinatago, yung iba ginagamit nila sa kanilang political at binibira nila si sa mga Duterte. Kasi yun yung ang problema kasi doon pagka binira mo ng binira yung mga Duterte, magagalit yung mga tao. Ako naman hindi ko naman akalain na ganyan ka-bold yung gagawin nilang paghuli kay Presidente Duterte. Kaya nga ito si ano pangalan nito? Si Diwata medyo dapat yan nasisihin mo Bongbong Marcos eh. Bukod sa nagtraidor ka na, napakaano pa yung ginawang panghuhuli dito sa mag-anak na Duterte, parang hinaras pa. Bastos. Hindi naman kagalang-galang tong general na ito eh. Itong general na ito, hindi mo na dapat igalang to eh. Ewan ko kung ba't ginagalang ka pa ng anak mo niya na makikita ng anak mo kung gaano ka kabastos. Isa ka pa namang general. Diba? Ikaw ang unang magiging casualty pag naupo si Sara Duterte. Believe me. Makukulong at makukulong ka. Ngayon, pag nag-earn at people's power na yung mga tao, lumipad ka na, umalis ka na ng bansa. Huwag kang magtapang-tapangan, siguradong makukupi ang ilong mo. Oras na dumami na tao, General Diwata, magpunta ka na sa ibang bansa, tumingi ka na ng asylum. Huwag ka nang magtapang-tapangan. Siguradong yung ilong mo, pangit ka na, lalo ka pang papangit. Napakawalang iyaan mo eh. Diba? Diba? Ay, Buster TV, shout out. Siya, magpapaalam na ako. Kinover lang namin yung ako, kumare, ayokong tingnan si Presidente Duterte, nakakaawa eh. Biro may sakripisyo ng matanda na yun. Matandang-matanda na hanggang ngayon eh. Ginigising pa rin kayo. Iminumulat pa rin kayo na dapat tulong-tulong tayong mga Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong mga Pilipino para umasenso yung bansa natin. Pero hindi sa pagnanakaw, no? Diba? Ako nga, malakas 70 years old pa lang ako. Konti lang yung kukumpara mo yung lamig dito sa Hong Kong at lamig sa Europe. Mas malamig doon. Nanginginig ako, si Presidente Duterte pa. Diba? Ay, Ma'am Nene Villa. Nakakaisang oras na. Isinerskling ko lang yung mabilis lang kasi yung yung dahig na yun. Inaabangan na si Diwata. Kasi, alam mo, yung pagiging general mo, General Diwata, time will come na hindi re-respetuhin ng taong bayan yan. At time will come na hindi nakakatakutan ng bayan yung oo, siyempre, alam mo naman ako, idol kita eh. Medyo pinalitan ko lang. Ano tawa si Buster eh. Ang ganda na, Buster. Ang ganda ng thumbnail ko. Binawasan ko lang konti. Ah. Ras eh. Jilan, alam mo naman. Ras ang labanan eh. Medyo pinutulan ko ng konti yung thumbnail ni Buster. Nilagyan ko ng ayos na. Si Imelda talaga, hindi na ako nga problema, isipin mo nga si Imelda, sentence, convicted, hindi kinulong dahil matanda na raw. Siyempre, inalis ko yung Buster. Isipin mo, yung intro ko, Buster. Tapos yung thumbnail ko, Buster pa rin. Baka ikaw ang isubscribe, hindi na ako. Ito yun. Diba? Hindi magtatagal itong bansang Pilipinas. Magkakagulo yan. Ako hindi ko sinabing that is my opinion. Magkakagulo at magkakagulo yan. Kasi ganun man talaga. Kailangan mo na magkagulo para tumahimik. Hindi ka naman matatahimik kung hindi kayo magkakagulo. Parang awa yan eh. Hindi naman kayo hihinto ng balitaktakan hanggang hindi kayo nagsasapukan. Kailangan magsapukan kayo para maintindihan kung sino yung nakatayo. Dilan, yung boss mo dati si Jojo, yung idol ngayon. Ako na. Sabi ni Master. Siya, magpapaalam na ako. Buster, susunod, galing-galingan mo yung thumbnail mo. Para pag kinuha ko, maganda rin. Ako ngayon, idol ni Ka Special. Siyempre, sino pa ba kundi si Buster? Kita mo nga, pat thumbnail, kinukuha ko. Diba? Alam na po, medyo gabi na. Salamat sa mga nanood at nag-like, nag-subscribe. Yan, shout out sa inyo lahat.